Welcome to the Time Management Podcast with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. I'm a productivity coach, global speaker, time management author, and award-winning entrepreneur on a mission to share the 888 formula with the world and to remind you that it's your time. Leave it to me to bring you new time management tips, tricks, tools, and strategies, to introduce you to guests, research, and case studies from around the world, and to give you a simple 5-step process you can follow to uplevel your productivity, achieve your goals, and create a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. I'm so excited that you're here, so let's get started. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited for this episode with my special guest, Sandra Dailidyte. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Hi, Abigail, and thank you so much for having me here and pronouncing my surname. I'm actually kind of got used to being just Sandra, like Madonna or Cher or Beyonce, my name.
Own that name. Who is Sandra in a nutshell?
I am a portfolio manager at Cazenove Capital, and I specialize with working with high net worth individuals, primarily entrepreneurs and business leaders, and helping them to navigate the complexities of managing and preserving their wealth. Outside work, I am a wife, dog mom, and a weightlifter.
What was your relationship like with time in the early days?
Reflecting on the younger Sandra and time, I recall having a lot of that. And I recall being quite bored and creative with my time. I've always been impatient. That's not my strength, but time was vast. And I can't really pinpoint when this concept changed. And right now there is this overall obsession with productivity and time management. And I think it's kind of big of us to think that we can manage the time as well, perhaps how we can manage money. And the concept of wasting time is also quite interesting that I would like to discuss more today.
I absolutely love that. And it's something that I've often talked about, but not many people get it. Time buys money, money buys time. They're married. They are the infinity circle. You can't have a conversation about one without talking about another. You mentioned that you didn't really have a pivotal turning point when you saw time differently. Would you say that it was possibly entering the career world that influenced the perspective of time and made you look at it in a different way, or question why you saw it one way and others saw it another?
I think it's very interesting and very deep. My big goal overall, I'm from Lithuania, and when I moved to UK was really to establish myself in investment world and finish all of my exams and get a client book, and that was really aspirational. I understood that such goal will require a very long-term work, and I've committed to that, and I was patient for a change. I think it changed in 2015 when I was promoted to investment manager, and suddenly I suppose I sat down and thought, what's now? The desire of achievement, of productivity, turn into other areas of life. Here you suddenly start thinking that I want to do so much with my life. And I think social media is guilty of that. We catch ourselves thinking that how faster I can learn the foreign language, how quicker I can learn to play the guitar. At the same time, I'm going to make this entire meal from scratch. And you run out of time just simply being you and being content.
Talk to us about how you use your time today. You mentioned you have a very busy, I'm imagining, demanding job. You have a furry animal that needs to be looked after, a partner. You also have a gym routine. What is your approach to making sure that you create the work-life balance that suits you?
Oh, my husband will be listening to this and he will say that there's definitely I'm not living by what I'm preaching. But I suppose one of the pivotal moments was in the summer in 2024. I was privileged to have 4 months off before joining Cazenove. But for this period, I sat down and I thought what my priorities would be for this 4 months. What would I like to achieve? And writing it down and thinking and reflecting on that, I've actually realized that I want so much that I'm actually not going to achieve that, even without having work. So just as showing for me that my expectations of how much I would like to do in the day, I'm actually going to be failing straight away because there's not enough hours in the universe. And then I suppose once you come to that realization that you can't do everything, that means you will not do everything, it comes a moment of liberation. And then you suddenly stop chasing that much. So you think, well, then I'm actively choosing where I'm going to put my energy in. And we discussed about having a number of priorities in life. And for me, it is my work, it's my family, it's my fitness, and it's my dog. And every week, I try to think how I'm going to achieve these priorities. And say that this is my holiday week, then my family and my relationships will go higher up there. Say it is an incredibly busy time at work, it's tax year end, my work will wholeheartedly take most of my week and my time, and that's okay. On a weekly reflections, and I really try to think about that on Sundays, I evaluate my week on these 4 priorities. I score myself, and whichever got the least, I make an intention to prioritize that above everything the following week. So this is just trying to check in with myself and to ensure that I'm spending my energy where I intend rather than where I perhaps could be pulled in.
What I'm hearing you say is that you are consciously, constantly reassessing, reevaluating, reprioritizing, and recognizing what you're doing and how it's making you feel. And if it's not making you feel the way you want it to, then you are changing it rather than perhaps doing what some of us have done in the past, which is beating ourselves up for, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, so therefore this, that, and the other, and making it mean things. You are taking immediate control of it and readjusting the plan. This is so awesome. I'd like to touch on something that you said about in 2024 when you were looking at what it was that you wanted to achieve. Now, they have science that has said that people who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. Would you say that you have noticed over the years that things that you have written down, you have achieved, you have manifested, they have realized into your life?
Not necessarily only even writing down, even saying out loud. So getting it out of your head and saying that this is what I want. And I'm a great believer of manifestation. It's a good saying, be careful what you're wishing for, because I'm a great believer this can happen. It would be foolish of me to say that I achieved everything that I've ever wanted, but putting the energy, work, if you do the right input, the output will follow.
There is this phrase in the manifestation world that we decide what it is that we want, we write it down, and we say this or something better. So that makes so much sense that we don't always achieve what it is that we want, because a power greater than us, whatever you want to call it, knows where we're going and what it is that we want to do.
And there is one thing that I personally struggled with. I can be very focused on the outcome. And if you think only about the outcome, then the achievement or not is based on that binary end result. However, and I know it's going to sound so cheesy, and I'm really trying to work on that myself, it's very important to enjoy the journey. And then if you're enjoying the journey, then you're not forcing yourself. You're allowing your inner curiosity and inner self to explore with a certain guidance where you want to get to, and you can find enjoyment in that. If the outcome is to, I don't know why I chose play the guitar, I'm not a musical person, but to play a piece and you are not able to achieve that and you're beating up yourself for that, you should check in with yourself. Did you enjoy all of the practice hours and the musical element of that? So.
I did a survey recently on LinkedIn where I was asking people what it was that they would like to focus on right now if they knew they could achieve it. And what came out of that was that 48% of people wanted to focus on their health and well-being. You mentioned at the start that bodybuilding is something that you do, and just building on from the point that you made, you wouldn't go into that gym with the end result body. Part of the daily, the weekly, the repetitions is working towards it, enjoying the process. Now, I imagine some of the workouts that you do are enjoyable because they are slightly painful, but they are all leading to the process. Talk to us about what it would be like if you were already walking into the gym with the end body and how boring that would be.
I do Olympic weightlifting, and the element of the outcome, I suppose, is not only aesthetics, and interestingly, are much more performance driven. So for me, is then the kilograms I can lift above my head. That is, for me, significantly more motivating. Knowing that I can snatch 100 kilograms plus, if that would be an outcome, knowing that you walk into the gym and you can do that straight away. I suppose for every athlete, you find that inner motivation to become better every day. Something that I've discussed with my coach yesterday, actually, is showing up to the session and being present with every lift. You often, as a weightlifter, you're not going and maxing out every day. You're perhaps doing 70 to 75% of your maximum capabilities, which can be a touch boring. It's a work with yourself to come and find that joy and commitment from inner to perform, to bring it to the platform. I suppose there's so much that you can translate into other areas.
I love how this conversation is going. I was recently talking to somebody about working out and the aesthetic, and how back in the day we would go to the gym, we would do the run, and it would all be about the aesthetic. And now what I'm hearing you say is that it is about the enjoyment and being present. And I find when I do yoga that for me, it's a 60-minute movement meditation. It's not necessarily about which pose I can get into, whether I can do a headstand today and how long I can do it for. It's, am I allowing myself to breathe through the class and be present in that class and silence my mind? This is where we are starting to recognize that the exercise is actually useful for our mental health as well as our physical being.
Yoga is particularly good in this because yoga is all about accepting yourself today, whatever you bring to the mat. And for all of the listeners, I strongly encourage to consider strength training, because nothing is better than feeling strong. It's fantastic.
I actually have a teacup that says strong on it, and that was my word for the year in 2022, I think it was, when I actually got that teacup for Christmas. I just wanted to feel strong, and it wasn't about looking good in the bikini on the beach. It was really so much more. We connected to have this conversation today over a post that you shared on LinkedIn about a book that you were reading around the concept of active rest. Now, in this busy, busy world where we need to do more, we need to be more, we need to have more, we don't have time to rest. What were the revelations that came for you as a result of reading this book?
The book is called Do Nothing. And just only saying that makes me feel uncomfortable. For example, it's been also studies shown that there is a difference between genders. Men feel much more comfortable midday to go and relax for 10-15 minutes. So that allows them to collate their thoughts and go to the next task refreshed and rejuvenated. Versus just only idea of that makes me so uncomfortable. I have to admit, I tried that. I lied in the bed like a stick, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do that. The aim of the book, and this is something what you've discussed in the beginning of the podcast, is giving yourself permission. Giving yourself permission to waste time. And that wasting is allowing to silence the thoughts in your head, accept, reflect, reconsider, and just be simply yourself and content. And that's really deep. And I was really pleased to hear that this is the concept that is relevant to so many people as I caught myself in productivity trap, being obsessed with how much I can achieve in a day and judging my day, how productive it was, not how fulfilling.
It makes me laugh when I think about it. Why do we believe that how much I got done today is a badge of honor? Who are we going to tell? Are we going to go and meet our friend in the coffee shop, in the gym, in the bar, at home and say, you will not guess how much I got done today? Do we actually think that they care?
Well, in the book, they discuss why this concept came through, and there was one to blame is Ford in terms of like productivity and working in the factories. That changed our view in terms of capitalizing on time and being productive to that. So indeed, but putting that badge of honor is, we can reframe that. And you know this better than anyone else. You know, you can go and say, you can go and build a new habit loop and reward yourself for resting.
When I first started the business back in 2013, I did a lot of research around the time management because I worked in finance for over 10 years. So I had that background of we left our blazers on the chair to look like we were still there because being present was a badge of honor. Being busy was a badge of honor. It was almost toxic positivity back in those days. And thankfully, the conversation is moving on. And so when I was doing the research, I came across the 888 concept, which I've turned into the 888 formula. And this is that we need to be sleeping between 7 to 9 hours every single day. So we call that 8. The average person sleeps for 7.5 hours. Society says that we need to be working for 8 hours. Then what is left is our lives. Every day we're allocating our time to the things that matter to us. And it's so interesting that this concept of rest, as you were saying, is almost abhorrent to us, that how can I do nothing? But when we really dive into the science and we understand that allowing our computer brain to down power for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, whether that's meditating, whether that's taking a nap, whether that's taking a walk, whether that is looking out of the window, it actually enhances our energy levels. It's crazy. The concept of energy management, it's so simple, but it's not easy for all of the cultural, historic reasons, as you're saying. Ford's concept was for how to make a car. We are not working in businesses, in offices, in organizations, building cars. They call us now the knowledge worker, and productivity, when it comes to how a knowledge worker works, is very, very different. And yet some people are still trying to measure it by the same stick.
I think it's just quite easy to get caught in that loop. So don't stop, keep on moving. And it's almost scary to reconnect with your thoughts. And perhaps some people are afraid to really find the answer of why they're doing. I have a German Shepherd that you can see sometimes pops in the video behind me. And I do police dog training with her. I've been doing that for 3 years, and we did a number of exams and qualifications, and in the end, I've decided to do one more, but it required a lot of time commitment from my end, that I had to travel to school, which is an hour away, that you have to spend there 5-6 hours every Saturday and Sunday. And there's a lot of waiting around outside. And in Scotland, you know, it's not Caribbean, it's not that warm. So, you have to really to embrace all of the weathers. And the aim was to achieve this additional qualification. On the day of the exam, a 3-part exam, I did incredibly well in the first, Zara is my dog, did incredibly well in the first part. Unfortunately, in the second element, she just had a mind of her own, and she decided to bark and play and completely was not switched on with exams. You know, that's why they say don't work with animals. And we did still very well in the third part, but that meant that we did not pass the exam. And that's something that doesn't sit easily with me. I was very upset and was trying to assess and make up the plan of how I can fix this unpleasant feeling of failing. And I thought one of the options is to continue going to the school and resit it. There was another 4 months later, but that would mean that the next 4 months, every weekend, I am sacrificing that for traveling and spending, and it's coming into winter months, so the weather is even more unpleasant. Or actually, I thought, you know what? There's nobody putting this on me. It's my choice. If I want to do that, that's okay, but this is my active choice that I make, or I can leave it there. The aim of all of this in the very beginning was to spend time with my dog and have a wonderful time and bond, which I achieved that. And I've lost myself in all of this driving and traveling and spending 5-6 hours in the field. I don't have to do that. And instead of that, I went to Amazon and I bought agility equipment, little plastic poles and jumps. And now I take that to the park every Saturday, which takes me 7 minutes to walk. And I'm doing training with that. And that brings me so much of joy. My dog loves it. And actually, now I have a little crowd of people that stop to watch us of how we are performing little tricks. And I'm loving it. So I suppose that the moral of the story is it's so easy to get caught, and you start chasing something, coming back for the sake of outcome, completely no longer enjoying the journey. And it's okay to change your mind. It was in the beginning, I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot more. Over the time, it became a chore. I'm an adult person that I can give myself permission to change the course. And you know what? Nobody cares.
Thank you so much for sharing it. There's so many lessons, and isn't it incredible that we start with an outcome of I must achieve this qualification, this certification. It doesn't work out. And then the temptation to define that as a failure versus what I'm actually hearing you say is all the lessons you have learned as a result, and the way that you pivoted that into how does it serve me? What kind of a life am I now creating? And you have become the local entertainer and perhaps inspired other dog owners to do the same.
Exactly. There is so much translation in other areas in life. Once you drop the concept that you have to find the most perfect way, you can find the way that works the best for you at this moment in time.
You mentioned before that you do a weekend reset where you look at what's happened, and I imagine that you are also looking forward and planning the week to come. Talk to us about how you schedule your time and you schedule your tasks.
Yeah, so this is one of the phrases that's been recently shared with me that I'm still digesting. You either scheduling your priorities or prioritizing your schedule. When it comes to next week, I'm thinking of non-negotiable. These were the events happening with work, but there's certain changes could be, in regulation, the budget announcement, one of them being there could be family visits or big milestones in life. So you put these straight away and you block that time. And then it's like while I'm speaking right now, I'm just remembered this classic example of putting your big rocks in the glass and then filling it with smaller and filling it in sand. I think this is such a flawed concept because I have so many big rocks. They all will never fit in that glass. So my issue is always, which rock should I put in first? Yes, and this is really deep question. So I'm allowing myself to choose a different rock.
I love that concept of the jar with all of the stones, the rocks, the sand, the water, and the order in which we do it is our ability to achieve what it is that we actually need to versus the noise that can just distract us. A question that comes up a lot in my work with clients is, are you scheduling your lunch break? Are you scheduling your dinner? Are you scheduling time for yourself into your diary as well?
I am actually trying deliberately leave time free. So I'm scheduling free time. Let it put that. Because sometimes for me thinking, if I'm going to now schedule self-care time, I'm feeling like this is another job on the task list and I'm not enjoying it. And I'm just like, now I'm putting this face mask, but I'm supposed to be relaxed. And this is not relaxing on any of that at all. However, I'm putting an hour, a couple of hours, or sometimes a special day in a month that is my free time. Another thing that works with my head well with scheduling, you know, that all of these little annoying jobs that you want to do, but you never have time, such as to tidy up your documents drawer, or you always put your spare buttons into this one drawer that they all end up everywhere, that these receipts are not being organized, or to fill in perhaps tax return is much more important than doing your buttons. But there could be like to repaint the wall. I keep on my phone this list. And I feel that I've added to that, and I will think about that later. So once a day in a month, I schedule it and I just do them. I just go through that list, and it's incredibly satisfying. So I always find that these little jobs take some running memory in my head that slows me down, and having the allocated time to get them off the list. They're not never high on a priority, but I feel a great sense of freedom once they've been done.
I think that is a great point, and I just want to pull that out a little bit more, because people can have a tendency to walk around the house and see all of the things that need to be done. But what you're saying is, rather than seeing them and feeling frustrated with yourself, you put them on a list. And then that's step one. And then step two is to review that list annually, weekly, whenever, and to schedule it. So step two is then scheduling that list. And then step three is actually doing it. Too many people get stuck at step zero, which is all these things that need to be done.
Or I, for instance, can catch myself, like I start doing them randomly. It frustrates my husband greatly. When there is a bigger priorities, we have to go somewhere and, you know, we could be late. And then I start painting this wall. And he says, why are you doing this now? And because I think when you are tired, that definitely happens for me. When you're tired and overwhelmed, it becomes difficult to prioritize. And then in that regard, I feel that this job is being addressed, is being noted, and it will be on that day. And if that day comes and I'm not really feeling that, well, you know what? I will reschedule it. And this is being kind to yourself. And that's something that I'm constantly working. And the recent tip I've read in this book, they encouraged to call these voices an inner committee and give them names. So for instance, you know, you're feeling guilt and you can say, oh, this is Judge Deborah, you know, no offense to Deborah's, but you know, you choose any name. And this is shame feeling for the fact that you perhaps indulged on some activities that you would consider you shouldn't. And this voice comes in and you say, this is classic Rachel. And by identifying and giving the names, you're becoming more aware of those committees. And you know what? You are the chair, and it's up to you to silence them or don't pay any attention.
You are one of the few people that I have heard talk about their internal committee. I also have one, and I went through a phase in the early days with the committee of having a real dislike of them and arguments with them. But now I recognize that they have their uses, but you're not required right now. So the next step, once you have identified your committee, is then to bring them back when it's relevant, because perhaps sometimes we do need to investigate why this isn't working or what it is that we actually want to be doing and we're not doing. So where's the sabotage and how can I remove it? How is it helpful? What am I not noticing? Sandra, you have shared so many incredible tips on this episode today. What would you say is one thing that you do with your time on a daily, weekly basis that you think that other people don't?
One of the changes that I've recently made, I check in with myself and ask, why am I really doing this? What I would like to achieve with it? and being honest with myself. And very frankly. And it's very easy, I think, in the beginning when someone asks you, would you like to get involved in one or another project? And our minds are very powerful. And immediately we start future forecasting how amazing it will be when we will achieve the outcome. However, where we struggle to imagine is what impact it will have on other commitments that we already made, that the time will have to come from somewhere else or even from our free time bucket. So I think it's important to be honest with yourself and say that if the objective is to win something and get the glory, and which is great, and I definitely do have some of these aspirations, but if I say it out loud, then it helps me to make a decision if that's what I wanted to put my energy in. And having realization that energy is not infinite concept, so I have to choose where I'm pouring into, and there is not much you can pour from empty buckets. So listen to the signs when the bucket is getting empty, and do the things that brings you joy.
This is so awesome. What is a piece of advice that you give to your colleagues when it comes to time management, productivity, scheduling, doing all the things?
Will that matter in 5 years or not? And if it will, then yes, focus your energy, efforts, and priorities and time. If not, nobody cares. Just let it go. I would listen to this myself, but I'm trying. I am trying.
Well, you will have the podcast episode to listen back to and to be able to tell the voices who say that you don't do it, that you know what to do and you are doing it. And it's so, so funny that we have these conversations with ourselves. What is one question you haven't been asked that you would like to have been asked?
I think you've asked me quite a lot of things. Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What's the biggest fear when it comes to time management you hear from clients?
Biggest fear, I truly believe, is that when people have what it is that they want, because they haven't had it, who will they be now? And then that fear, it's absolutely crazy when you say it out loud. That fear is then tied to, will people like me? Will it work? What will it be like when I have all the things that I think that I want? We are so wedded to the certainty of, well, I know what it's like when I don't have time. And maybe then when I have so much time, and this is a really interesting question, actually, Sandra, with the fact that AI is now taking a bigger role in our lives and technology is moving faster than ever before. There are so many things that we used to do that we now don't need to do, and it frees us up. But it frees us up to do what?
This is brilliant, because if we think 2-3 generations back, people didn't have washing machines, microwaves, and does it feel that we have more time?
One of the biggest things that I say to people is to recognize that you have enough time, which can sound really disrespectful when they're telling me that they don't. And it comes down to, where is what you have right now going? And is what you're doing with it bringing you the results that it is that you think that you want? I have nothing against a good binge watch on one of the box sets. I have nothing against spending all day out with your friends. I have nothing against going to the gym and exercising for hours at a time. But if each of these activities, whatever it is that they are, aren't bringing you what it is that you want, don't do them. And this comes back to what you were saying with your dog, is you were enjoying it to the point where it stopped being enjoyable and you recognize, I'm going to stop it now. But too many of us have a narrative in our head of, I've started, so I'll finish. This was my goal, so I must do it. And one of the biggest ones I heard recently from a client was, I can't stop because I've said I was going to do it. So now they're doing it resentfully. Do you know what it feels like to receive something from somebody with resentment energy?
Does not feel encouraging.
It does not feel joyful in any way, shape, or form. Oh, thanks. You resentfully did that for me. And now, even though I'm grateful, you don't want to receive the gratitude because you actually didn't want to do it in the end, but you didn't want to say that you didn't want to do it.
Exactly. And often I see that there are certain activities that people enjoy, but then we often believe that more is better. And then by overdoing it, you lose the joy it altogether. Or suddenly, again, with the concept wasting time, there are people who walk to me in the park and they say, oh, you're training a dog. Could you train mine? I'll pay you. Why wouldn't you like to have that as a professional job? And well, yes, I could. I'm very lucky in a place that I don't need necessarily extra income. But suddenly, when you make it work, it no longer becomes your spare time and your joy, because you have to have a schedule, commitment, and clients, and etc. So this is it's very deliberating to say it out loud to yourself. I choose to do that.
When you get that so much of this is a mindset conversation, as you were saying, identifying the committee and understanding what's actually going on in our own computer hard drives, which have been programmed by society, by parents, by our careers, by our education, by everything around us, by social media. Constantly we're being influenced. And the question always is this my desire or somebody else's? Because there are so many things in life that many of us can do. But the question really needs to be, as you were saying, do you want to do it? So you can train more dogs. You can even be paid to train more dogs. It could even become your new job if you decided that that's what you wanted to do. But the first question is that what you want to do? And so many people, their answer is no, in their soul, in their body, in everything within them. And yet they say yes for a program reason. They say yes because other people say yes. They say yes because they were told to say yes. So it's not really a yes. And I think one of the things that's going to be so interesting this year, we're becoming so much more energetic, and we can read other people's energy. We can read our own energy. This year, we will start to recognize when that innocent yes, which is really a no, shows up in our body and how we feel as a result of it. As I was saying before, this resentment energy, this unhappiness energy, which kind of leads me into one of my favorite subjects, which is human design. And when I noticed that I am a generator, there are activities that I do, Sandra, that give me so much energy. There are activities that I can do that drain my energy. Now, I can do both of the activities, but one fills me up, one empties me out. And when we start to recognize 70% of the population are either a generator or a manifesting generator, then that's when you start to recognize, oh, we're all actually different, but we're trying to live life the same.
Well, comparison is a thief of joy, isn't it? And this is seeing, especially with the social media, everyone is projecting the best selves, and you see, I'm not there. There's a lot of things that I can also see with my clients. I work mainly with said lots of business owners when they sell the business, and then in the media you see the news that they sold business for X amount of money. What often is not seen is the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that went into work in the decades before that, when they didn't take any holidays, when they worked every weekend and didn't draw any income for the first 5 years of running the business. But suddenly it's all of that is glossed over, is just kind of a tip of the iceberg area, and this one now victory is being showcased and rightly celebrated. But we have to recognize that all of that goes in the back of that. It's very, very important not to lose the perspective.
That's such a great point to end the conversation on, and it really feeds into the earlier part of the conversation around enjoying the journey. Because if your whole goal is to sell the business at a certain age or at a certain valuation, and everything else is sacrificed to achieve it, people can get to that goal, get to the top of that mountain, and they feel empty because they didn't enjoy the journey. and other people get there and it's everything they imagined because they enjoyed the steps to get there.
Absolutely. And then it's up to them to define and to choose what to do next.
Sandra, thank you so much for your time. Where is the best place for us to find you online?
I'm the queen of LinkedIn, so please connect with me. Relationships are important to me, so I really would like for people to reach out.
And as always, all of the links will be in the show notes. If you have any questions for Sandra or for myself, reach out and connect with us. We would love to hear from you. We would also love to hear what you took away from this episode. And if there are any further questions you would like, then perhaps we could get Sandra back for a part 2. Who knows?
Thank you, Abigail. I really enjoyed. I said that the world where we run out of things to discuss does not exist.
Thank you so much for your time.
Take care. Bye.
And until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay well, and remember, it is your time. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to let me know by leaving a review so I can keep the good stuff coming. Come and say hi on Instagram at Success by Design Training, or visit my website, successbydesigntraining.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Abigail Barnes. Until next time, don't forget, you are amazing and it's your time.